Hey yo, Nyakun here, and in today's video I want to take you through how to build this hero section. And there are a few things that are pretty cool when it comes to this hero section per se. The background adds a bit of mystery to it. It gives it that AI kind of vibe that has been going around recently. I'm going to take you through this very version, and then there is another version down here that has a little bit of something else going on with the background. So I'm going to show you how to build both of these in a really short period of time. And also you can see that there is this kind of 3D kind of effect going on. I can also show you how to build that, and this pausing effect button over here too, we can go in and build that. So hopefully it's going to be a very speedy build, and we don't take too much time fidgeting around, right? So let's get into the builder and hit it out. Going back to the back end, this is what we do have. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to add a new section, and I'm going to open my structure panel. I'm going to collapse everything over here and drag this all the way to the top so that we can actually see it. The next thing is to go into layout. I'm going to make sure that my align is set to center. I'm going to minimize that, go into my size. I want to change the size to custom, and then within minimum height I want to change it from pixels to custom. Also I want to give this one 100 dvh. You can use whatever size that you want. You can leave it at the minimum just like that. That also works. Now I want to go into doing my background, and for the background let me click on there and I'm going to show you a few things. At the moment we are using gradient, and we are using an overlay gradient too. So I'm going to show you how to do those things. So let me choose gradient, and then for gradient let me click on choose. Over here you're going to get this red black then, which is probably one of the worst combinations, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the gradient that I used. The reason why I saved it to pre-use it because it's a bit before I created it, it was just me playing around mixing stuff to see which one is actually going to work. So this is not I'm not going to say this is something that you should follow to create your next one, but it is more like a stepping stone. And when I show you, I do have this I think at 2%, and then this at 11, and then this at I think 32%, and then I do have this at 81%. So this is how the main one is created. And then when I go into overlay, let me drag this to the side. Overlay 2, I'm using a gradient. I'm going to click on choose, and then I'm using this gradient, and this is more of an a linear gradient that goes from emptiness all the way to black. So you can see that from here we do have the black at 0%, and then there is a blue over here at 25%, and then there is a white that is opacity 0. So that is how the gradient is done for the background. And the next thing that we're going to do is to try and build out what we do see when you go all the way down over here. All right, so I'm going to click on this plus icon, and in here I am going to add a div. So the div is going to hold these items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy everything from here for the text, and then when I click back here I'm going to add a header text, and then I'm going to change this one to the text that I just copied. Then you can change your tag to H1 if there's your hero section. Go into styling. With styling, when we open up the typography panel, you can set whatever that you do want to set. Over here I'm going to use more blocks utility to create a clamp. So right, and then I'm going to go into my clamp generator, and from here I'm going to make this I think 86 pixels, and just click on copy to copy that clamp function. All right, so back to my font size, I'm going to change it from pixels to custom, and I'm going to paste in what I just copied, and then we can go in and then change the weight to probably like a 300. Let me go back and find out what size this one particular is. All right, so it's 90 pixels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up that clamp generator again, and then change this one to 90 pixels, and then just click on copy. Going back over here I can just paste in what I just copied. So that is that, and then we can change the size by clicking on size, and I think this is probably like 800. Let me go down and see what it is. All right, so I think 800 is good, and what I can do is I can go back into typography, and then for alignment I can just make sure that this is centered just like that. I can go back into my advanced, and make sure that my line height is 1 so that it is not too far apart. All right, so going down, you can see that we do have this text over here that I can just copy. And then I'm going to select this header text, click on add, and then just add normal text. And I'm just going to select it and paste it over here. All right, so that should be good. I can reduce the size of this. I can go in here and then reduce the size if I do want to 0.95 REMs. So you can get something more like that. That fits what we are doing. Going back into size, I can change this one to probably like 650. I think 650 is too small, maybe 550. All right, so 550 is not bad. And when I go and I select my div, what I can do is when I go into layout, I can click on vertical and then also click on center like that so that everything can be centered that is within it. Also for the gap, I want to give it a gap of probably like 20 pixels, just like that. All right, after that, we do have these 2 buttons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on add, and then let me add a div. So this div is going to hold the 2 buttons. From there, I can click on add again and then add my first button, which is this very one. All right, and then for that, what do we have as text? Get yours today. So I'm going to put in the text over here. Get yours today. All right, so that is the text. What I'm going to do is if I want to style this a bit more, I can do that. I'm using a white over here, so I'm going to select that. Since I don't have it pre-made, I'm going to click on button and then click on custom and then go into my custom, drag this on this side so that we can see it. And for background, I am choosing white. For typography, I can go in and then choose the blue so that it matches just like that. I didn't use blue on the other one, but I think using blue is better. And then for icon, I can just click on icon, click on this, and then I'm just going to type in arrow. And I want the one that is pointing a bit up, which is kind of this one. And then you can also position it before, after, and you can also give it a size, and then the space before and then the space after. So we want to do a space before and give it like probably 15 pixels. Some gap is pretty good. All right, and then when I scroll down, we can also do a hover of probably -5. So when you hover, it goes back a bit, and we can just leave it at a +5, just like that. All right, so that is good. The next thing that we can also do on this is make it round, just like how we have it down here. So round, and I think that is fine. We can then close it because we don't actually want to do anything else. The next thing I want to do is I want to also duplicate the button again, and then I want to select, when you click on this arrow, you are going to select the main container that holds the 2 buttons, and I can go into layout, make sure this is horizontal by clicking on the horizontal, and then for alignment, I'm going to make sure that this is centered, and then let's give it a gap of 25 pixels. All right, selecting the second button, I can go into my design, go into the styling, right? Click on button, and then instead of using a custom, we can just use a text so that we do just have this text over here. All right, selecting back on our div, I am going to go into vertical align, make sure that this is aligned to the center so that it's not all the way to the top. All right, let's click back on our button. Let's edit the text. Let me drag this to this side so you can see it. I want to add an arrow. So instead of adding the arrow, I'm just going to use custom, and then I can choose a play. So with this one, I am going to choose this very one. Is that what we're using? Okay, is the one with the circle. So probably let's use this one. All right, and then we can just, okay, when you have a transform, we can just make sure that all right, to do it specifically as this with the icon below, we might not be able to use this one, so I'm just going to leave it like this. I don't think it's a major problem. And I want the size, arrow size. Okay, so arrow size, I think I did use 25, which is fine. Going back in here, you can use underline and stuff like that. So when you change your typography, let's say you change this one to red, it is going to also affect that very button over there. Yeah, I think this is fine. I don't want to do too much on that. All right, so we have done that specific one. The next thing that I also want to do is to try and add these little icons over here. All right, so what I did with that is I went into Figma. So if I open Figma, I'm gonna show you what is over there. All right, so this is Figma, and I think this is what I did. So I created this very thing, and then I exported it as an SVG, and that is what I'm using. So you can do the same thing by creating this and then also making this very one, and you can just export it and then use it. All right, so to do that, I'm going to select my div and then click on add, and then I'm going to add an image to it. I'm going to select that image by clicking on choose, and then I'm going to select the very first one, which is this, and then click on choose, and then I just added it over there. All right, so what I'm going to do is hold Shift F and then search for position, and then for this I'm going to change this one to absolute, and then I'm going to make sure that this comes to the bottom, so bottom of 0, and then the right of also 0. Push it over there, and what I'm going to do is for the bottom I'm going to give it a bottom of probably like 30 pixels, that more like negative 30 pixels, and when I keep going down we can bring this one all the way down like that, and for the right we can also push it a bit to the side. All right, so that is good. What else can we do? We can also change the size of the image if that is a problem. We can give it 100 pixels like that. If you do want it to be a bit smaller, you can do 100 and let's do 130 pixels. All right, and then we can leave it just here, or we can just modify it a bit more, because so for the right we can bring it here, and then for the bottom we can just push it up a bit more. All right, so the next thing is, let me duplicate this, click on choose, and I want to choose the second one, which is this, and then click on that. And then for this I'm going to click on, let's do Shift F and then set for position again, and then over here we don't want it to be on the right, so I'm going to remove the right and make sure it goes to the left. And then also I don't want it to be at the bottom, so I'm going to push it already to the top. So let's bring this one all the way down around the side, and then for the left we can just drag it in a bit more if you do want. You don't have to follow the same positioning. I think this is good for the position. The next thing that I want to probably do is this one, but let me add this very thing over here for a badge. All right, so selecting back on our div, which is this, I'm going to click on add, and then for the search I'm just going to search for a badge. All right, just add the badge in there. Let's drag it all the way to the top, and for this I'm going to click on styling, and typography we can reduce the type to 0.65 rem. And then for the badge, by clicking on this we can make the radius 25 pixels, makes a bit more round. And I just want to go in and copy the text that I'm using, because why not? So select back on the badge, go to edit, and then paste this text over there. And for color you can just click on background, and then for this you can also make gradient or solid. You can do a linear gradient just like that, and I can choose this very one, and I just want to change the blue. So for that I'm just going to drag this all the way to this side and then choose that blue. And then what I want to do is probably click on this white too, and then I want to change it to a bit of a blue too. All right, and then I want to go give it a border of white. Okay, and we can leave the pattern. I think the pattern is solid, and for typography we can just choose a white for it. So if you want to make any more changes you can also do that, but that is similar to what we do have over here. It's not the same, but it's kind of similar. All right, I can just save this, and I think that is good. We are going to do that 3D. You can see the moving thing. We're going to do that later on, not right now. All right, so the next thing is to create this very one over here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add a div. I'm going to select my section and then add a div, right? And then what I want to do is I'm going to click on spacing. So the top margin I'm going to give it like 100 pixels, even more, and be a bit further from this very one. All right, so from here I'm going to click on add, and then I want to add an image, and then I'm going to click on choose. I'm going to find this very image that I'm using and then just add it. All right, so from there what I can do is can start working on that very image that I do have. So select that image, go into styling, and for styling I'm going to click on image, and for the width I can give it a width of, let's say, 1000 pixels, and I think that is fine. And then what I'm going to do is I can fix my aspect ratio if my aspect ratio is not that good, but I'm going to leave this just like that. If we have a problem, I'll fix it later on. What I want to do is I want to add a bit of zoom to this, so that when see that there's a little bit of zoom over there, and then when I go into effects, I want to change the duration to like 400 millisecond. So when I have that zoom, it's pretty cool. All right, the next thing that I want to do is I want to go into my border, and for border I am going to give this one 20 pixels, and then I'm going to select for individual. I'm going to remove it from the bottom. So remove from the bottom, we have something more like that. All right, let's click on this arrow here to select our div, and then for the div I'm going to go into container, and for pattern, so the pattern I want to give it is just 2 pixels all around. So we do have that, and when you give it a 2 pixel pattern, when you go into your border, for you to calculate a better border around all of them, you have to add the radius of the internal item, which is the image. So it has a radius of 20 pixels plus your border, which is 2 pixels. So you have 22 pixels for your border radius for your container. Since we want the bottom to be more straighter, I'm going to click the individual, remove the bottom one, remove the bottom one. The next thing that I want to do is let's close this, and then still in that div, let's click on background. I'm going to change my background to white, and then I'm just going to reduce it a bit, right? I think that is good. And then when I go, I think this is good. I can go back into my image and then also start working on a border. I think the border I was using like 5 pixels or something more like that, and I can choose a blue, and I can just reduce the radius for that one too. It's not as obvious as that, but I think that is fine. We can reduce it even more if we do want something more like that, and then I think that is good. The next thing that you can see is I do have this thing over here, this image. I created it using Figma, and I just imported it as an SVG. So what I'm going to do is click on add, and then click on the image. Sorry, I placed it into the wrong one. Let's place it over here. All right, so our image is over here. I'm just going to click on choose, and then this is the star, kind of star that I did create. Just click on choose and then add it over here. So what I'm going to do is, since that image is still selected, I'm going to use Shift F and then search for position. Make sure our position is absolute and goes into the corner like that. I'm going to make sure that it is on top and then it is to the left. Then I can just push the left out a bit more to have something more like this, and then the top too, I can just push it up more to also have it look more like that. All right, so I think that is good. You don't have to do much. That is how you do that. And the next thing that we might want to do is let's go into the front end so we can actually see. So the front end, and then we do have this thing over here. All right, so to create that is pretty simple. What I'm going to do is, we still have this div selected. Let's click on add. I'm going to add a wrapper. So let's add a wrapper. I'm going to use a link wrapper. The reason I'm using a link wrapper is I want to have a link in there so that when someone clicks on it, you do have a video popping out of it. So a link wrapper, and then what I'm going to do is that pausing thing that you do see, there's a new pausing element within Breakdance. So the pause that, let's add that into that. And then what I'm going to do is, for the size, I'm going to use 75 pixels. So it's as huge as that. Okay, the next thing is to add another icon. So I'm going to type in icon, and then for icon, let's add that icon, and let's click on choose, and I'm going to search for play. For this play, I'm going to use this one. So in there, and then for the color, let's click on edit, and then click on icon, and for color, I'm going to give it a color of red, just like that. And then I'm going to click on the pausing, make sure I change the color to white. If you do have color preset too, you can make sure that you use them because it makes your workflow better. Let's click back on the icon. I'm going to do Shift F, search for position, right? And then for this one, I am just going to click on absolute. Then after that, I want to now go back and then search for index. Make sure that the index is 2 so that it comes on top. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my wrapper, go into my styling, go into layout, select vertical, make sure it's aligned to the center, and then aligned to the middle too. So we do have something more like that. So the next thing that we can work on is to make sure we place it into the center of this. And to do that, since our wrapper is still selected. Let's do Shift F, so position. And then for position, I'm going to make sure that this is absolute, right? And that is it. Then the next thing that I want to do is when I want it to come to the middle, I can select my main wrapper, which is the div, go into layout, select vertical, make sure that I have aligned it to the center, and then place this to the middle, and we have something more like that. So when you hover, it zooms in and you still have the pulsing effect. So let's go here and see whether we've done everything that is needed. The next one is this very text over here, and it's very simple to do. So what I'm going to do is I am going to click this, duplicate it, and then drag it all the way to the bottom. We have something more like that. I'm going to just double click it and paste my text over there, and selecting back there, so I can go into the styling, make sure I remove this side because we don't want a size on this. So I have a hags it like that. All right, so I'm going to click on my section, right? And then I'm going to give it a gap of 50 pixels. I did 20. Let's do 50. And then I'm going to select back on my, we'll select back on this one. I think I did put in a margin of 150, so I can just change it to 100 pixels. Maybe too much. Let's do 50 pixels, and I think that is good. All right, I can just save this. So we have been able to recreate what we do have over here. The next one is I want to show you the other way of creating this dotted effect over here. And to do that, what I'm going to do is to make sure that I duplicate the section, and then I'm going to call this one dotted BG. Just click on that, and then from here, all right, so I think that is good. From here, I'm going to show you how to add that dot effect to it. So I've selected my dotted BG. I'm going to go into my background, and then in overlay, I'm going to drag this to this so you can see it. Instead of using a gradient, we are going to use an image, and then I'm going to click on choose. And then if you remember, we were using this very stuff for something else, but we can also use it to create that dot effect. So let's click on choose, and then when I do that, you might not see it particularly because it's down below. All right, so this is it. We added it over here. So what I want to do is go back into my overlay, and from here we can just tweak it a bit. So let's go into image settings. All right, and then for size we can do custom, and then we can do 1 pixel. So when you do 1 pixel, you're going to get something more like this, which it is covering your entire screen. Now the next thing that you can do to make sure that it looks even better is you can change your opacity. So whatever opacity that you want, you can do like a 4, so that you do have it looking a bit more like this. So that is how you create this seamless one, and then you can also add the dots if you want to add the dots. All right, we can just save that. The next one is to show you how to create that 3D effect using ElementHive. All right, so to do that, I am going to go into my setting over here. I think my images, I want to select this, right? So selecting this, I can go click on this gear icon in the advanced section, ElementHive Pro, and then mouse effect. Then let me drag this to this so you can see it. What we do want is a mouse track. So let's click on the edit, and then I'm going to enable it. So now when I move it, you can see that it's moving. If you want to add a bit more distance, you can add a bit more distance so that when you move it, it moves a bit more. You see? All right, so that is how you do it. And then we can make this opposite. So when you move it to the left, it goes to the right. When you move it to the right, it goes to the left. And that is good. We don't have to do much. You can add a few more things like speed factor and stuff like that. You can also disable it on your touch devices. All right, so I think I am done with this one. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm using Breakdance version 2. So with Breakdance version 2, you can just copy a section of a design that you just did. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to click on this very one, go into my gear icon, right click on this, and then just paste what I just did. So now we do have something more like this, but both of them are going to the same direction. We don't want that. So I'm going to open the panel, click on mouse effect, drag it to this side, click on mouse track. Then instead of choosing opposite, I'm going to choose direct. So now when I move it to, they both go to different directions, stuff like that. You can reduce the distance from 100 to something else. Let's say 20 pixels. All right, and then we can also click on this, and then we can also change the track from that to, let's say, 30 pixels. so that they are all on a different kind of vibe. All right, so we are done with the mouse thing. When I go down here, the next thing is you can see that this looks like it is hovering in 3D space. We can fix that too. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I have to select my div, which is this one, and then I can go into my gear icon in ElementHive Pro. I can click on mouse effect. Let's drag this to the side and then do the 3D tilts and just enable it, and that's it. If you want to do like maximum rotation, let's say 50, so you have more like rotation than necessary, and there's a lot. Let's do like 5 and see how 5 feels. 5 is not a lot. Let's do 20. So I think 20 is good. You can actually do see what is happening, and that is how you create something more like that. So with the effect that you can do, you can just duplicate it on this one for it to look good and meaningful. So the last thing that I want to show you after we've done all of this is the design that we do have over here. You can see that we do have like some arches going around. There's some over here, there's some right there, there's some at the top. So to do that, let's go into Breakdance, and from here I'm going to show you that too. I'm using dividers, so I'm going to click on dividers. I'm going to add the very first one, and this one is just going to be something for the top. So let's select this, and then I'm going to add another one, and this one is also going to be something more like this. Let's put it to the bottom. Then I'm just going to add the last one, which is also going to be for the bottom. I'm going to choose something more like that. All right, and then I'm going to choose the very ones that I am using. I'm using the curves for the ones that are below. So let's say this is the one for the bottom. I'm going to use a curve. I don't think this is the curve that I'm using. I think that is the one. I'm going to change the height to VH. I'm going to be the height of, let's say, 70. All right, and then that should be good. And then with the curve, is there's the curve 2, right? So let's go to the next item. There's also curve 2, and then instead of using a height of 70, I can give it a height of, let's say, 67. All right, and then we can change the color to a blue, but make sure that the height is changed to VH, so you have something more like this. And then the next thing is to make sure that our colors are actually the color that we want to use. So we have this color, so I'm going to just make this a bit lighter. All right, and then I'm just going to copy that and then go to the second item, paste this over there. Now you can see that you have that little curve, the two curves over here. So that is good. The next thing that is, go to the first item. The first item is also like a big arch, so I think it's a curve. It's a cave. I need a curve. All right, and then I can also change the height to VH and change this on to probably like 70, and then you can have something more like this. And then paste in the color that we do have something more like that. So I can even reduce this a bit to get something more like this. And it's not the same thing, but that is how I am able to create those arches that you do see in the background. And then you can just do the same thing for the second one, and then just add your dots to it, and you are done. So all in all, that is how you create a futuristic, this AI vibes that is going around. That's how you create something more like that using Breakdance. If you did enjoy the video, I'll be really pumped if you can give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel too, I'll be really excited if you can join us as we do create more than mostly like 3 videos per week, showing you how to build cool stuff, showing you how to build things using Breakdance, and sometimes some other builders too. So thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the flip side.